Hi, if you don't already know me, my name is Brennan Boyda. I am one of the instructors of the Refrigeration and HVAC program down here at the college. In light of the recent events and the constant air quality problems here during wildfire season in BC, I've decided to make a couple videos to help you keep your air clean. Now, if you haven't seen my other video, it is on making a DIY air purification system using a fan, some filters, and some cheap tape you can find around the house. But in this video, what I am doing is helping you understand the filters themselves. I'm gonna help break down what an air filter is, what a MERV rating is, and I'm also gonna help you understand which air filters you're looking for to help purify your air during these times. Now, first things first, all the pollutants from wildfires and any smoke really isn't gonna be picked up by just your run-of-the-mill cheap filter. So if you have those in your furnace or central air system right now, unfortunately, they're not gonna help you a whole lot. A lot of times we call these dust stop filters. So what is an air filter? An air filter is just a restrictive media with tiny holes that will allow air to pass through but catch particles and contaminants in your air. A filter like this, where it's wavy in the material, is called a pleated filter. And these are really good at catching finer material because it has more surface area to try to catch it. Now, when you're at the store, you're gonna see a couple things. You're gonna see either some efficiency ratings like that, or you're gonna see them labeled with something called a MERV rating. A quick note, in this video, we're gonna talk about how restrictive a filter is and how it will affect your system. The ways I'm gonna explain it is going to be from the perspective of a 1-inch filter. Most homes are gonna come with a 1-inch filter standard. However, you may have a 2, 3, 4, or 5-inch filter. And if that's the case, you actually can run that filter a lot longer than these 1-inch filters. And they're less restrictive overall. An easy way to think of this is, in 1-inch, you have to do a whole bunch of work right away, so you have to be as restrictive as possible. In 5 inches, you have 5 times as long to do that work, so you can spread that work out over that larger surface area. Now, one last thing I want to go over is how to actually find that MERV rating. These 3M filters are very common. If you don't know where to look, the MERV rating might be hard to find. They actually show a microparticle efficiency rating. It works. It's okay if you can just see these numbers. A MERV 11 is going to be approximately 1,000 to 1,200. A MERV 12 is going to be approximately 1,450 to 1,600, and a MERV 13 will be approximately 1,800 to 2,000. But I actually prefer just finding the actual MERV rating itself. Now, on these filters, the MERV rating is actually listed on the back. You can see it right on the bottom of that filter. That square furthest to the left is going to say your MERV rating, and this one does indeed say a MERV 12 filter. Now, what's a MERV rating? A MERV rating is the minimum efficiency reported value. What does that mean? At the end of the day, this is just a guarantee of the minimum amount of efficiency this filter has for picking contaminants out of the air. The higher the MERV rating, the better the filter media is at picking up contaminants from the air, which is a good thing. However, this also means that it is more restrictive for how much air it allows pass. Is this a big deal? Yes and no. If you have a brand new system that has been ducted in properly and you don't have any airflow problems, you shouldn't run into any issues running the full MERV 13. However, if you live in an older home with an older duct system, you may run into issues with airflow because of how restrictive the filter is at those higher MERV ratings. Now, what I'm holding here is a MERV 11 filter. A MERV 11 filter is what I would consider the bare minimum of what we should be looking at to use when it comes to purifying our air from wildfire smoke. The MERV 11 filter is rated to pick up tobacco smoke contaminants. However, it is not rated to pick up actual PM2.5s. Now, what is a PM2.5? A PM2.5 is just a particulate that's really, really small. But this filter will still pick those up. It's just not rated to do it as efficiently as we would like to see and give it the full-on thumbs up. It will just take longer to get them all out of your air. But the benefits to using a MERV 11, it is the least restrictive to airflow. Meaning if you're running into airflow problems in your regular day-to-day, or you have an older furnace and ducted system, use a MERV 11, but that doesn't mean you're not protected. This will still do the job. It just doesn't do it as quickly and efficiently. This is better than nothing. Now, moving on to the next one. This is a MERV 12 filter. It does a much better job at picking up all the contaminants and particulate from the air. So really for me, this is the sweet spot between airflow and air purifying. This is the one that I'm actually running in my house. Because we live in an older build home with an older duct run. Now, this is the MERV 13. This filter is the bog standard when it comes to pulling out wildfire particulates because you do get that PM 2.5 rating. Yes, it's the most efficient at cleaning up the contaminants from your air, but with that trade-off is that airflow restriction itself. So just make sure that your system can handle it. If you already have the MERV 13 in your system, guess what? You can handle this no problem. If your system has a MERV 11 or 12, you could probably still run a MERV 13, but we're gonna talk about how to do that safely soon. So we have our MERV 11, our MERV 12, and our MERV 13. Now, all of these filters do the same job. They pull contaminants out of the air by catching it in the filter medium. That's great. That's exactly where we want it to live. So how are we going to use this properly during these times? First thing to remember, these filters only clean your air when there is air passing through them. So to get air passing through them, you actually have to run the fan for your central air system as much as possible. So how do we do that? A thermostat, and effectively all we're looking for is the fan setting and having it switch from auto to on. So I have a smart thermostat in my home and I don't have a flat on setting. Mine goes by time. I was able to set it where my fan is gonna run continuously for 7 days. I feel comfortable doing that because I know if the air clears up and I don't have to be cleaning my air nearly as much, I can just turn that off. But remember, what's important is these only filter your air when that fan is running. Now I'm gonna level with you for a second. I know just as much as you do that people don't always change their filter as often as they're supposed to. You know what? I understand. It happens to me too. The only problem with that is during wildfire season, when we have a lot of contaminants in the air, this is gonna plug up a lot faster. I would change out these filters more frequently than I would normally change out the filters in my home. The MERV 12, I'm only gonna let this run for a maximum 2 weeks when there's wildfire smoke, and then I'm gonna change it out with a new one. So next, I'm gonna show you actually how to change the filter in your home, just in case you've never done it before. All right, so now we're at one of the trainers in our workshop where I'm actually gonna show you how to change out that filter if you've never done it before or just need a quick refresher. So where is the filter gonna be located? This is the intake for the system, and that is where the air blows through. So the air will get taken in through here and go up and out of this system. So this is what we call the return air, and this is what we call the supply air. Now, some systems have supply air filters, and if that's the case in your location, please just double check on the vents themselves where the air comes out of to see if there's any sort of filter there. But every system is going to have what we call a return air filter. So when the air is coming back to the system, it's gonna get cleaned up by that air filter and then blown through the structure again. Now let's take a quick look at where that filter actually is. All right, here I am down at the return air duct. Now this being a trainer, we don't have a full ducted in system attached, but you would in your home. The most important thing you're gonna look for is this little door here. Sometimes they don't have the door. If it does have the door, make sure it's put back on. So when you pull this door off, you're actually gonna see your filter right there. It's straightforward enough to change out that anybody can do it. So what you're gonna do is grab it and pull it all the way out of the track. And then you're gonna grab a new filter and you're gonna slide it back in through the track. Now, a really important part is on this filter, you will see an arrow. The arrow has to be pointing towards the unit because this arrow actually shows the path of air. So it's gonna be pulling it through the filter. You're just gonna slide that back on through there, making sure that the arrow is pointing towards the system. So let's quickly go over what we talked about in this video. We talked about what a filter is. A filter is simply just a medium that allows air through, but it's restrictive enough to catch contaminants from the air. We've talked about a MERV rating, which is the minimum efficiency reported value. And we talked about the fact that the higher the rating, the more restrictive the filter. And we talked about what filters we're looking to use in our homes to keep the air clean during these times. That being the MERV 11, our least restrictive, which is our option when we need the most amount of airflow, but we still want to clean the air. And this is our better than nothing. In other terms, this is our good solution. We talked about our MERV 12, which for me is my happy medium when you need airflow and to clean up the air as much as possible. I would call this our better solution. And finally, we talked about the MERV 13 filter, which is the best at cleaning up the air from contaminants. So we have our good, better, and best options here. Hopefully that video was helpful and you understand air filters a little bit more clearly. During these times, every little bit helps. And when it comes to cleaning the air that we breathe in, it's important to know the basics. So if this did help you or you found it useful, please share this video with people who you think would benefit from knowing this information. Check out my other video on the DIY air purification system, which to me is a very important thing to know because as everybody has experienced in the past, when you need an air purifier, so does everybody else. So that's the first thing that flies off the shelves in the stores. And stay safe out there.